everybody, welcome back to Mask of the Slasher. Today we're going to talk about the movie Lost Boys. Yeah.
Good one.
The reason we're doing that is, one, because of the video that we did last week for us, and two, because we're winding down summer, and it reminds me of my childhood, so I'm
Yeah.
just like, yep, let's bring it on home now. So, and I'm okay with summer just pissing off.
Yeah.
This, you know,
Yep.
it's actually been fairly decent.
Yeah, not too bad.
No, but I really could just fuck off. So yeah, we decided to do The Lost Boys because if you've seen the movie Us, or if you watched our video last week, like you should have, we talked about the fact that that was filmed at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk in Santa Cruz, California, where The Lost Boys was filmed.
Like, why couldn't it just have been Santa Cruz? Why did they have to come up with a fictitious name of Santa Carla?
I don't know. But you know what? I have a theory on that. So,
Okay.
We'll get into that in a minute.
Cool.
So this movie, it starred the two Coreys,
Yeah.
Corey Haim and Corey Feldman. This was actually their first movie together.
Oh, really?
As the Coreys, yeah. This is where they became friends and bonded probably over cocaine or something.
Probably.
You know, who knows. And it was also, Kiefer Sutherland was only 17 when,
What?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, apparently he lied and said he was 18.
Oh.
And when they were doing the prosthetics or whatever, he was like, oh, don't tell anybody, I'm only 17.
Wow.
And I was like, he's such a baby.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's interesting. He looks much older.
Yes, he does. Well, he's always had
Yeah.
an older face, but he has more of the poofy cheeks and whatever in this, the childhood looking
Yeah,
stuff.
that's true.
So, as far as why I think they changed the name, I just learned this today. I thought this was really interesting. So back between 1970 and 1973, Santa Cruz was actually known as the murder capital of at least the United States, but they say world. But and that was because, hold on to your hat, there was 28 murders within that time span from Ed Kemper, Herbert Mullen, and John Lindley Frazier.
Oh,
Crazy, huh?
yeah.
I didn't know that. Never even thought about the Ed Kemper thing.
Yeah, me neither.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I would assume that they changed the name just because then it wouldn't tie to that specifically. People
gotcha.
wouldn't think, oh, it has to do with
Oh.
serial
Okay.
killers.
Gotcha. That
I
makes
don't know.
sense, yeah.
I could be
Makes sense.
totally full of shit, but it sounds good to
It does,
me.
yeah. I think that's a good theory.
This movie, I'm sure a lot of people have already seen this movie. If you haven't, once again, I don't know what you're doing. But this movie, as most people know, but I'll quickly do the quick explanation of what actually happens. So it's two sons, teenager, and probably just a little bit over 18, I'm assuming. I
Yeah.
think he is, something like that, Michael.
Yeah.
Those two boys and their mom, they go to Santa Cruz to go live with their grandpa because of a divorce. So, and they're all bummed because they had to leave Phoenix.
Which I don't understand. You leave hot-ass Arizona for California on the beach, and you're bummed about that? I
Yeah.
don't get that one. I mean, I guess leaving your friends behind and stuff maybe, but
Teenagers.
other than that, man.
I know. I never understood it either. But, you know, maybe, yeah, that's where you grew up. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't ever want to go to Phoenix for anything. But anyway, so yeah, they move there and they go to the boardwalk because that's the main draw in Santa Cruz, aside
Right.
from the actual beach itself. That is a for real thing. I mean, there is, you know, UC Santa Cruz is there. Go Banana Slugs.
Yeah.
There is also just the tourism portion of it, but yeah, it's all drawn towards the boardwalk.
Yeah.
And I remember as a child going there and it just being freaking nuts as far as traffic goes. When we went, remember we had to keep driving around and around?
Yeah, that was the first time, yeah.
Yeah, it was horrible. Yeah, the second time it was off season, so
Yeah.
it was quiet, but nothing's open then.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, it was still a huge draw for us. We really loved going there because the boardwalk is literally up against the beach. So you had the best of both worlds.
Right.
Bathrooms and a beach. I mean, what more could you want out of life?
Yeah.
I mean, gotta take a leak every once in a while.
Well, yeah.
Well, you could just pee in the ocean.
You
really.
could. Nobody's going to know.
Nobody will know. So anyway, so they move to Santa Cruz. They go to the boardwalk, and Michael sees Star, who is super hot apparently. I always thought she was kind of plain Jane, but whatever. That's me. She was supposed to be blonde
Oh, really?
and waifish.
Interesting.
But anyway, and then Corey, whatever his character name is. What is his character name?
Sam?
Sam, there we go. Yeah, you would think that we had never seen this movie before. Sam, he goes into a comic book store, which, by the way, the in the comic book store, there's two people that look like they're just high and whatever.
Yeah.
The dude is the actual owner of the comic book store.
Oh, really?
And it has moved from that location, but it's still owned by him somewhere else within Santa Cruz.
Really? Wow, that's
Yeah.
cool.
And if you want to go to the comic book store and take your picture with the comic, it is there for
Really?
you to do
Wow,
so.
that's cool.
Well, Sam is at the comic book store. He meets Edgar and Alan Frog, the Frog Brothers,
Yeah.
as they're known. And they're just overly dramatic, kind of dorky.
Yeah.
You know, you would think that they'd be like LARPing later on in life, you know,
Totally.
that kind of situation. But obviously, Edgar and Allan, the name comes from Edgar Allan Poe.
Right.
But yeah, they, you know, are like, hey, take this comic and here's our number in case you run into all these damn vampires that are around here, because apparently it was very well known.
Yeah.
And it was known as the murder capital of the world at that time. But it goes back to that whole Ed Kemper thing, and
Right.
you know. So it just kind of, wouldn't it be funny if that just happened to be on the back of a sign somewhere?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, so they get to know each other, and Michael, he wants to hook up with Star. So there's a whole thing with that, and the four vampires,
Yes.
Kiefer Sutherland and all of those people, I don't remember all their names.
No.
Well, and obviously Alex Winter.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was one I thought was hot when I was younger, and obviously became later, you know, the whole Bill and Ted
Yes.
thing. So anyway, so whatever Kiefer Sutherland's character's name is,
David.
David. There we go. See, we got one. He challenges Michael
Right.
on their motorcycle and brings him to a cave,
Yeah.
makes him drink blood, and
Yeah.
turns him into a vampire.
Right.
Now, something I just never even thought about until last night when we were rewatching this.
Yeah.
There is not until way later in the movie is there a bite
Right.
involved.
That's true. Yeah.
He just drinks blood
Yeah.
and bada bing.
But also in Dracula, that's how Dracula turns people. Is he makes them drink their blood. I mean, yeah, he drinks theirs to feed, but in order to turn somebody, they have to drink his.
So when did it change to where it's the bite that makes you the vampire?
That I'm not sure where that changed exactly.
Mosquitoes.
Good question.
So anyway, so yeah, they get, you know, they do their thing, their boy stuff and whatever. But once again, shit hits the fan.
Yep, as it often does in
Yeah,
these movies.
And they, you know, have to fight off the vampires. They're trying to kill them. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
That's the story. Okay. So for the fun stuff, though, one thing I had noticed in this almost immediately was the comic book theme itself.
Yeah.
There is a scene where that couple is making out in the back of the car, and there's comics everywhere. The roof gets ripped off
Yeah.
by the vampires, but the lighting that was on them was this red lighting that looked comic booky.
Yeah.
You know, it reminded me, what was that movie? Sin City.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that, or Creep Show, where they make sure they have the specific lighting that
Yeah.
looks like comics. The particular comic book that Sam is holding, that the Frog Brothers gave him, is called Destroy All Vampires. This is not a real comic book.
Right.
They made it for the movie. It was based off of reading just the script. But I was like, you know, there seems to be more to this. So I was like, well, I'm just going to look into it. And it's not more as far as like what it means to the movie. It was just a convenient way
Yeah.
to do that.
Right.
Blackthorn Publishing was created. I'm hoping I'm saying his name right. I'm sorry if I'm not. Steve Shanes or Shanes, one of the two. He and his brother were actually the original founders of Pacific Comics. That was in 1970s.
Okay.
And you know, comics kind of took a dump at one point,
Right.
and a lot of places closed down.
Yeah.
And so Steve went his direction with his wife and made Blackthorn, and then his brother went and did something else.
Okay.
So they were asked to do this. They also did the book for one of the Incredible Stories. And this is weird, and I don't even know what products it would be. I'd have to do some really serious looking. But they did a lot of like stuff for Hallmark and Spencer's. There is another character in this that stands out, that became it had like a cult following almost. The sexy saxophone
Oh,
guy. There's,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and every time I'm still just like, what? But anyway, his name is Timmy Capello, or Tim Capello. He actually was in Tina Turner's band
Right.
in the 80s and 90s. That's how he became popular.
Yeah.
Now, in this movie, though, he's wearing some wicked, like, tie-dye stretch pants.
Yeah.
And then, like, a like a cod piece or something like
yeah,
that. It's
yeah.
like some weird bondage
Yeah,
shit.
he looks like he could be a pro wrestler,
That's
honestly.
he does. Yes, that's definitely it. And he's all greased up because he's muscular
Oh, yeah.
and everything.
I can't remember when I got older, and I was like, "Who is this guy? I have to know."
Yeah.
And so I went down an internet rabbit hole of Tim Capello, and I thought it was funny. I think it was maybe the Wikipedia entry for him specifically said he's known for his gyrating, which I thought was funny because he definitely does gyrate.
He does. He knows how to shake those hips.
He really does.
And he just has a great voice.
Oh, yeah.
He really does.
I actually like that song.
I do too. It's a good song. It's a good song. Well,
Total guilty pleasure.
yeah. Well, it's okay. We don't all have to listen to gems, So, and speaking of the soundtrack, this was probably the first soundtrack that, well, my sister owned and I stole all the time on cassette, and it was because of the "Cry Little Sister" song.
Oh yeah.
And it's a very. It was written for the movie. It was just based off the script. He didn't see the movie before writing it.
Oh really?
It's probably one of the coolest songs for a movie that,
Oh, yeah.
Between that one, that's a spooky ass song,
Yeah.
and that weird spooky one from Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah.
And that is only partially
It's only,
cool.
I was gonna say, it's only partially spooky. Like,
Yeah,
the
then
part that they play in the movie is great, and the rest of it, if the song goes on, it kind of gets lame.
It's so boo-boo. So, but Cry Little Sister was also covered by Marilyn Manson. I'm sure it's covered by other people. I don't care. It was covered by Marilyn Manson back in 2018. It just says it was a B-side to one of his albums. But at the time that it was released, I swore I read it was recorded for a video game.
Oh, interesting.
But when I was doing the research again to tell you the specific name of that, I couldn't find it. So who knows? People could just be full of shit.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So
That's a great song though too. Super
is.
moody and
yeah, he did it. I have
Dark.
to say that there's not a lot of covers that I like, but Marilyn Manson did an amazing job.
Yeah, he did
with
it
that
justice
one.
for sure.
Yeah, and he left out the oh so awkward sounding yeah.
Oh yeah, that part's yeah.
I was listening to it again before we started, and I was like, "What is that?"
Yeah,
and he's
yeah.
just like, "Yeah," and
yeah.
I'm like, "We don't need that." So I picture Marilyn Manson in the studio going, "I'm not fucking putting
Yeah,
that in
I'm not
there.
doing that."
No, that's lame." And I agree. It was
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
it's kind of
kinda-
weird, but thankfully that's more in the background a little bit. It's a weird,
It is a weird little.
yeah. Like I'm gonna have to go and listen to the score itself. But remember, I said it sounded like Mexican radio.
Yeah, it totally does.
Now after
The Walla Voodoo song, actual radio in Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's funny because when I was listening to the soundtrack earlier, and then you know how Spotify likes to keep the party going, that's the song they played next.
Oh, how weird.
And I was like, oh, maybe this was part of a playlist because, sometimes the soundtrack's not available. Somebody will make the playlist. Nope. It was just random.
Weird.
Or they're listening to us.
Yeah.
Aw, shit. Either way. So, when did you first see this movie?
I saw it in the theater
Oh,
actually
fuck off.
with my mom.
Jesus Christ. That's it. I quit. I'm leaving. I didn't. I didn't see it in the theater. Kill me. So you sat in the theater with your mom. How
Yeah.
great was that?
It was pretty great.
Was
I have
it?
to say, yeah. My
Yeah.
mom still likes the movie to this day as well.
That's good.
Yeah, and yeah, I can't remember. There was either the theater at the mall or there was a theater up on University that we could walk to, and I can't remember which one we saw it at. But yeah, for sure saw that one in the theater.
It's great.
Good one.
And so obviously you liked it then, and you've liked it throughout these years.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
How many times do you think you've seen it at this point?
I don't know. It's a lot.
It's got to be at least once a year, right?
I'd say so for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because if it just
Because if it just happens to be on, I'll watch it. Or sometimes I'll just be like, oh, we're in the mood for that.
yeah, well,
so-
Halloween spooky season usually we bust out some movies.
Exactly.
But I feel like Lost Boys could be any time.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
They do. The Boardwalk will actually have a movie series throughout the summer where you can go and watch a movie for free at the Boardwalk. Obviously, it's not free because you have to pay for frickin' parking
Right.
and your snacks
Yeah.
and everything else. But
Yeah.
nevertheless, they will show this movie once a year.
That's cool.
And I'm like, well, they should.
Yeah.
Because I would imagine it did boost some sales,
Yeah.
I remember the last time we went there, I had never noticed it before, but there was basically like a little marquee window thing, and they just had some information on the fact that was in fact filmed there, and
Yeah.
some other stuff that was filmed around there that I don't give a shit about. So, but the scene where they go to the video store, that was actually Monterey.
Oh.
And the train trestle was actually Magic Mountain Parkway, where Magic Mountain, the theme park is,
Right.
also known as Wally World. in case you didn't know. Yeah, it's over there somewhere.
Interesting.
And I wish I had known that because I have driven past Magic Mountain, I don't know how many times in my life going down to Disneyland. I've always loved this movie. One, because Alex Winter's hot. Despite the fact that his horrible extensions,
Yeah.
they don't look good.
No, they don't.
But I still was like, oh, he's so hot, and cute. So I was very excited when I saw Bill and Ted, because I was like, oh, there he is again. But now he looks like an elf.
True.
Yeah.
Very true.
So, but they were all hot. They were hot dudes.
Yeah.
And that was part of why they wanted to do this movie, because they said vampires are sexy and hot and
Right.
all those cool things. And that's true. That's, definitely been the case
Yeah.
since the beginning of telling any sort of vampire story.
Yeah, I personally prefer gross Nosferatu vampires, but
Well, yeah, I agree. But hot ones too, I mean,
yeah.
Gary Oldman,
Oh yeah, well, yeah.
man. Whew.
He does both in that movie, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We get
God damn it, he's hot. in
gross
that.
vampire and hot vampire in
Yeah.
that one, so it works out.
So while we're watching this, though, then my brain is running, and doing its thing. And I'm like, where does the garlic come from?
Mm-hmm.
And the steak that has always been with, like, vampire lore where it's like, oh, these will kill or repel
Right.
or whatever. Okay, so I had to go look it up, right? Because I'm a dork.
Vamp facts.
Woohoo! So, garlic. This is, so, as...
Not just for pizza.
No, it's not. But it's a lot of these things. They went back to medieval times when
Right.
people were dumb
Yeah.
and just thought everything was evil. Garlic, when cut, it releases a sulfur compound called allicin. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that right. It's ALLICIN, which has a strong smell and acts as an antibiotic. So at the time, people thought that vampires, which I don't even know, I have to look further into this. Who even thought that there were actual vampires?
Right.
I don't even know. But either way, that was a blood-borne disease. And so they thought that because garlic was an antibiotic, that it would cure it
Ah,
or repel it.
gotcha.
And it's, yeah. And then they were like, man, we're just wasting good garlic.
Yeah.
We could be making a sweet pizza right
That's
now.
right.
And we're dumb and we didn't.
Good.
And then the wooden stake thing. Usually it was oak or ash that they said that they prefer. And it was believed to have mystical properties capable of repelling evil forces. So, yeah.
Interesting.
The garlic thing, though, that was actually more popularized by Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Okay.
Probably the same for the wooden stake, too. It just didn't say it when I was reading stuff.
Gotcha.
Because that book was written in 1897. So that's a long freaking time ago.
Yeah.
It's a long, long time ago. So anyway, I thought that was kind of, I was like, okay, now I know. The cross makes sense because they think they're evil.
Right.
So and the holy water, obviously, that all made sense to me. But what's funny in this is that David, when he dies at the end, he's just thrown onto some antlers.
Yeah.
So in passing, I was reading, I guess there was some probably fairly shitty sequels to this at one point.
Yeah.
And he comes back
Oh,
because he wasn't killed after all.
gotcha.
And I kept, I always thought he should have come back in this and they should have killed him again.
Yeah.
I mean, they had the opportunity. The fact that it was a local thing for us and vampires are cool,
Yeah.
hot dudes. I mean, all of the above, Plus, I was going through my goth phase.
Oh, sure.
I was working into that because I was copying my sister.
Yeah.
So it just was all hot.
Sure. Sure.
It's hot and bothered.
Hot.
So, and then I was like, okay, let's see if I could actually come up with some sort of comparison with us. There really isn't much.
Yeah.
Except it's two families coming into a town that there isn't anything good about it. You have the duality of vampires looking like regular people or like hoodlums in this case.
Yeah.
And then obviously with us, you have the tethered, being the doppelgangers
Right.
of the regular folk.
Sure.
That's the extent of it, though. I really could see. I did read one thing, though, today.
Yeah.
Apparently, there was a copy of the Goonies VHS in the video store that they past, I guess. I don't know. And as you know, Corey Feldman was in Goonies.
Right.
Well, in Us, at the beginning of it, when she's sitting there watching the TV or whatever, and that Hands Across America commercial comes on,
Yeah.
to the left is a VHS of Goonies.
Oh.
And when I saw that, I was just like, oh, that's just because, it was the time frame and they
Right.
wanted to just bring that in. And because it probably came out around the time that girl had her trauma and whatever. So, but I think it actually now has to do with the fact that it was in The Lost Boys and a Corey Feldman reference.
Interesting.
So,
Cool.
cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
So, I would assume you folks have seen it by now. I would hope so.
I hope so, yeah.
My gosh. I mean, where are you? Jesus. Obviously, once again, readily available.
Oh, yeah.
Not when we tried to stream it last night, though, because
Well.
we were too lazy to walk 10 feet to get the DVD. Yeah, so it wasn't streaming anywhere that unless you want to pay for it.
Well, Tubi had it, but we didn't want
Oh
commercials.
yeah, we don't. Yeah, you can watch it on Tubi if you don't want
Yeah.
to pay for it. But this is also a good Walmart $5 bin.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting the Blu-ray
That'd
of
be a
it.
good upgrade, yeah.
Yeah, see if there's any special features.
Yeah.
So I can look at the special stuff because this is one of those DVDs that's so old that it just starts.
Yeah.
There's no
crazy
menu.
old. Yeah.
Just get on board and
Get on with it.
yeah, because we put it in and we hadn't switched it over yet, and it was already playing, and I was like, "Son of a bitch, we haven't even gotten there
Yeah.
yet. Give us a chance, man."
Exactly.
So anyway, yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think we have nope. I think that's it. I think this is the end of our summer series,
I think so.
and that is okay.
Yeah.
What sucks is we haven't gone to the beach
No, we've not.
this summer, and that blows goats. But what can you do?
Yeah.
So we'll be back next week, as
Yeah.
always. Give us some comments, like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Support us, folks.
Yeah.
We're going to be eating ramen soon if you don't. I'm just kidding. But, we
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, we do.
We appreciate you, bro. So I think that's it.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.